Hey, everybody, we are live. This is HF Pod. We are back. For those of you who've been waiting, we said we would start at 3:30. It's just a couple minutes past. We are basically more on time than any live music act that I can think of. So thank your lucky stars that we're not, some jam band that comes on an hour after we say we will. We would never do that, would we, Brian?
Well, Fish came on 2 minutes before ticket time on the 4th of July because of those Boulder NIMBYs that we've been hearing so much about. So that was the most responsible.
I think you're the only one talking about them, Brian, but you have been talking about them a lot.
I'm still just really annoyed by that whole situation. We're in Colorado. What are we doing? But anyway, aside from that, yes, this is very responsible jam band podcasting here.
We're responsible jam band podcasting. Megan, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. It's summer. Good. Yeah, I'm working on my tan, hanging out, reading a lot. Yeah, trying to, roll with the punches when you guys send a whole new way we're going to do the show, like about 2 hours before we record. So, I'm just like going with the flow here.
You got to stay on your toes. That's what it's all about. That's why Brian.
Are you saying you want to just keep going song by song? Is that what you want to go back to?
I think you know very well that I don't, but it is fun to prepare for an episode and then get a text that's like, hey, what if we do it this way? I'm like, yeah, that's good. It's responsible jam band podcasting. It's keeping me honest. It's challenging me. I like it.
That's why before you joined the show, Brian had that intensive curriculum for you. It was all designed to be
thrown out.
Are you prepared?
Yeah, exactly.
It was called Being Nimble with the NIMBYs, and Brian is the architect of it.
If we were, like sponsored by Magic Hat, maybe we could spend a little bit more time preparing for this.
It's true. God, I love Magic Hat.
Remember that beer podcast that was sponsored by Magic Hat?
Magic Hat.
We should be sponsored by Athletic, the non-alcoholic beer.
Yeah.
I just bought some today. They should sponsor us. Responsible jam band podcasting.
Great product.
Drinking non-alcoholic beer, right?
Magic Hat would be perfect if we were 21. Just kidding, Magic Hat. We're good.
Non-alcoholic beers this weekend. Well, the same night, Friday night. My dad was in town.
Don't go crazy, bro.
I know, right? We grilled, so I had a beer with him, and then we watched the Fish show, so I had another beer, and I realized about halfway through set 2 that the problem with non-alcoholic beer is they still make your gut feel the same way that alcoholic beer does.
Yeah,
and the fact
totally.
that I was just like, what did I like? Did I just like eat 2 pizzas tonight? What is going on here? So I'm going back to seltzer. Fuck this shit.
Wow.
Really? That was the shortest turnaround.
I mean, I'm still going to have them here and there, but it's not going to be this like Friday night, like let's kick back a couple of NAs, bro.
Yeah, I feel like they're good for the summer when I just feel like it's summer. I really want to have a drink, but I don't want to have an alcoholic drink. So it's good. Or if you're at a show.
That's it.
I think they're really good at a show. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we all have different experiences, and that's what's so great about life. And we're here to...
a great transition into this episode.
Yeah,
nice job, RJ.
We do have a lot of voicemails, and we just decided that we will do a mailbag episid on Friday.
Yeah.
So look out for it on Friday. We're going to go through. We have at least 10 we need to listen to. Just keep sending them in. We're just gonna spend a little while listening to them and talking about them. So keep them coming, and don't worry, we did not ignore you on purpose, unless we don't read your unless we don't listen to your voicemail, and that's a different story. But keep them coming.
I hope some of them are funny. Are any of them funny?
Yeah, they're always funny.
Yet.
They're always funny.
I
mean, our listeners are the best.
Yeah, it's true.
They're the best.
More or less.
Brian, would you like to tell? Okay, so we have 4 shows to recap here. Megan and I did the Jam Bass recaps for 2 of the 4. So there's some content out there if you want to read. I did night 1, I guess, and Megan did night 3.
Mm-hmm.
But Brian, tell us how we landed at that long text message from you a few hours ago.
I mean, I think part of it is, the endless creative process of creating content and creating a podcast. So you don't want to do the same thing over and over again. I think that, we're at that point midway through a tour where it's like, okay, are we just going to say, here are the 4 shows, what were your highlights from night 1, what were your highlights from night 2, so on and so forth. Like, is that really going to tell us where the tour is, where our thoughts are on this overall tour? So I took a little bit of a step back or a step up into the 10,000, 20,000, 30,000 foot range of what is going on with Fish right now. What is going on with this tour? We went into this tour, we did a draft preview episode. Two of the things that we pointed out heading in was number one, we're in kind of an unprecedented, consistent high period for Fish right now. What does that mean for a band that is always in evolution and always testing themselves? By testing themselves, sometimes working against the grain of what maybe some of their listeners want. But also the fact that we are in a tour where the routing is a bit herky jerky, a bit all over the place. We're making stops in very, very new venues, very new markets before kind of concluding. And we're about to enter into this like wonderful period of Philadelphia, Chicago, New York City, and SPAC to close out the tour. All very familiar terrain. But historically, as we've kind of seen, when the band does a tour that visits primarily new markets or has this kind of on again, off again quality to it, like this has had for the first 3 weeks, 4 weeks, wherever we're at, I don't know. That tends to impact the consistency of the play. All that set up to my ears tend to move towards a place where I feel like the band is in kind of active transition right now, and they have maximized a lot of the experimentations that we were hearing definitely through 2021, a lot of 2022, but then really this last 2-year period in time since the spring 23 tour where jams kind of ballooned in size. There were a lot of segments within those jams where there was a lot of experimentation that would build up to kind of a peak. It would wind down. They would use those themes on the backside to move into a new area, so on and so forth. And boom, we get to 35, 40 minutes. It felt like every 3 or 4 shows, 25, 30-minute jam markers suddenly became like, whatever, just another show, bro, you know? And my thoughts right now is sure, you could just keep doing that, rinse and repeat over and over again. But Fish always seems to be trying to figure out what is next for themselves. And to my ears, what is happening right now is a almost reduction down to who are these guys without a bunch of noise and effects and weirdness, just as 4 musicians trying to communicate and play together within the context of still we're hearing pretty long jams. But it seems to me like we're hearing long jams in the context of how do we, at a base level, just connect around musical themes and build those versus how do we experiment as widely and as bizarrely as we've seen in past years? And what does that mean for the band going forward? So I guess last thing I'll say, we're not going to do like a standard set one, set two, set one, set two, set one, set two recap here. We're going to kind of just like take this idea that I've put forward, what our responses are, and incorporate uh, various jams that we're hearing these sort of ideas in or not. Do we like this? Do we not? What do we think about it? And then kind of compare it to the last couple of years of Fish history, which we all thought were high watermarks in the band's overall history. And to me, not to bury the, not to give it away right now, but like I think this tour is a little bit more to this point in transition and less of like a peak period in their overall history. So I know that was like 3 minutes of me trying to just organize my thoughts. Went to a lot of different places there. Meg, I want to throw it to you. What are your thoughts on all the things I've said? Every single one of them? No, just generally where my head is at right now. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Where do you go with it?
Kind of in the middle, I think. I think that there have been some really, really high moments on this tour, and then I also think there's been some inconsistency in terms of flow and incorporating monster jams within that flow. I think of, what I want in a Fish show when I'm being really picky is that I want it to have massive flow. I want it to have big jams, or at least one big jam. And then I want it to have an intriguing set list that maybe plays some things I haven't heard, or something that's interesting, or puts them together in an interesting way. And I think there definitely have been some shows that have done that. I think Columbus from this week and Charleston Night 3, I'm just thinking about this week for examples, have really, really did that for me. But I think there's been some moments when either the new songs that, the older songs that they're playing that they don't play a lot sounded rusty or disrupted the flow, or there were versions of some of these shows that had excellent flow and really did a nice job with playing those rarities, but didn't have that big kind of like tentpole jam. And I think that's fine. And some of those shows worked really well. I think like Charleston Night 2 had such excellent flow that it didn't matter that it didn't have like a huge jam, because it did have a lot of jamming anyway. I think for me, their interest and focus on lengthy jams seems to really be standing out, and something that's very true this year. And also, that to me, whenever they're doing that, it says that they're interested in kind of transcendence and finding that place as an artist that you go when you're not thinking, and when you just get to kind of be taken by the music. And we've seen that happen a few times, and I think it's been really exciting, but I think they are pushing to get there, which is, I think, really interesting and works. I think last night's Tweezer is a great example of a jam that goes the distance and is really incredible the whole way through, has a great narrative arc, and it's just really played well. But I do think it's interesting, and I was thinking a lot about last summer, because we were talking about this, and we really think last summer was incredible. And I was thinking, I looked at my recap notes from last year and like after Dick's, and the tour did have a bit of a lull right before and through Mondegreen, sections of Mondegreen and right before Mondegreen. It had a little bit of a lull, and I think that was forgotten a little bit because Dick's was so phenomenal. But I was looking at the numbers for last summer, and it was really interesting to me. There was 26 shows summer 2024, 92 entries on the jam chart for last summer. So that's 3.5 jams per show. And there were 18 over 20-minute jams last summer total, and 13 bust outs for the whole summer out of 26 shows. So in 2025 so far, we've had 13 shows, and we have 17 more to go, and that includes the September segment. We've already had 10 20-plus minute jams. So we are going to blow past that 18 number from last year. And we'll have a few more shows, but 4 more shows, I guess. But I think we're going to blow past that 18 number. And we've already had 13 bust outs so far in like half of the tour. So I do think that they are playing more bust outs, more songs that they don't play as often. And even some of the rarities that they've been playing wouldn't necessarily be considered a bust out, but they are played a lot more rarely. But I do think the numbers show that they are reaching in terms of song variety and lengthy jams. And I think we're going to hit the same amount of like average shows per jams per show as last summer. But I do think it's interesting to look at the numbers and think about what that says about where they're at. They're definitely pushing out of that regular rotation that they hit last summer. I mean, the leading up to Mondegreen, that like week or two before, were some great shows, but they had a pretty tight song selection at the end of tour. And I think that it'll be interesting to see if they do that this year as well, or if they continue like pushing with the bust outs. But I do think that they are working to incorporate stuff that maybe more aggressively than last summer. It's maybe affecting flow.
Yeah, and I think that those are two really interesting kind of areas to explore, because you're absolutely right from a jamming standpoint and from like a jam time standpoint. Like, we're in a pretty unprecedented spot right now.
Totally.
Like Wednesday night show in Columbus, on paper, I think someone would probably look at it and just be like, okay, whatever. And like that's kind of the one of my, you know, somewhat unformed takeaways from the summer, is that like the set lists on paper haven't been as like shocking as we've seen in past years. Like I think about Mondegreen night 1 last year. I think about Bethel. I think about Dick's night 2, night 3, some of the Mexico stuff last year. We had Deer Creek night 3, Sphere night 4. Like we had these set lists that like I know that everyone says you can't judge a show on paper, but there is something really enjoyable about looking at like an awesome fucking set list. Like, don't tell me that you don't get like a little turned on looking at 11/17/97 on paper. Like, you're lying to yourself if you don't. You know what I mean? There's times where you're just like,
Yeah.
whew, that just looks good. But like the Tweezer is a really good example of this because the Tweezer is an excellent jam. The Tweezer is very different from that 40-minute Tweezer we heard in St. Louis last year. That jam
Yeah.
is like going everywhere and trying to say so much in 40 minutes. And there's like a peak. I don't have the exact timestamps in front of me, but like there's like a peak around like 25 minutes and then it dies down and gets super weird. And then there's this other gigantic peak around like 37 minutes. And it's this band that's just like, we play this style and then like we found a wormhole out of here and now we play this style and then we get out this way and now we play this style, whereas this Tweezer is like a very straightforward uh rhythmically induced, tight, kind of late night funk, sultry,
Gorgeous.
really really beautiful jam
Mm-hmm.
in a way that like would have been a like 15 to 18-minute Fish Jam in earlier eras. The Down with Disease is basically a type 1.5 jam. Like
Yeah.
it really doesn't leave Down with Disease. My closest comp to it is the 12/29/13 version. That's basically like a Down with Disease solo for 20 minutes. It gets a little quiet and then builds back up. And this gets me I'm gonna pause on the bust outs because I want to bring Mr. B into this. Um, because RJ has been talking about this a lot the last couple of years. The idea of new sounds versus long jams, and are we hearing the band try new things? And I felt for a while throughout the best parts of 21, 23, 24 that we were hearing new ideas, new sounds, new soundscapes, new effects that were impacting the way the band was jamming. And a lot of the jamming right now reminds me of like 2013, 2014, 2015 era Fish in that it's like getting back to the root of just purely making music in a room as a quartet. Obviously, these are longer jams, like we all know that, but that it's almost like we've reached like the outer edges of what we can do with what we currently have on stage. Let's go back, discover what it just is like to play a riff and build a peak as a quartet and see what happens there. And like, so, you know, let me just bring you in, RJ. Do you agree with that? Do you hear that at all? I don't want to keep just like, I could just keep rambling.
No, no, you couldn't. You couldn't. Sorry. You couldn't. You don't have any thoughts left.
Nothing. They're gone.
I think that like the two things that I would comment on first is just I think what's most interesting about the last few years is those like, 5 to 6 minutes of a jam, usually at the end, sometimes in the middle, toward the end, where it just goes like into a weird ambient space where it feels like they're really kind of just like sitting in that space, And
Yeah.
I think we're here like a little bit less of that on this tour, like that the Thread jam from
Oh
last
yeah.
night, Megan, like you said, that kind of has that. Where because to me that's where it like feels like they're completely kind of at peace and patient when they can just like kind of fuck around without thinking about what's next. But yeah, that Down with Disease it's an interesting example because I think it does kind of just it goes back and forth kind of between the dark and the peaks, and it just kind of like goes back and forth like that. It is like up and down like that for a while, but the band of it is pretty narrow, like there's not a ton of really big diversions, and I guess that definitely, I think so. Those parts at the very end when it starts to get weird, like the life-saving gun from Columbus, there's like a part of that when it sounds like a kind of like if you were at a Spotify playlist and that's like ambient groove, and there's like 5 minutes
Yeah,
where it's
yeah.
just like
Yeah.
mostly Trey and Mike like doing this ambient groove, and it's like it's really cool and sounds. I think that's like a sound that I don't necessarily hear very much in jam. So I think there are little moments. The other thing I think, just based on what you're talking about, the bust outs, I don't really like, you know, I don't really get it, but I think there's like something to it because I think that they do like the sightless escape from the first night of Charleston, like very unexpected, and then cool jam emerges. So I guess that's the reason to like play these songs that they don't play very much. But there's been a lot of kind of rough songs, and
Yeah.
but I feel like that means something, and I don't know if it's about being impatient or if it's about like trying to dig in more to the catalog to find more opportunities.
New
I don't
songs.
really know. Yeah.
Well, I wonder if because the jamming there's not been a lot of post-peak jamming, which I think leads to those spaces that you're talking about, RJ.
Yeah.
Almost all of the jams lead to these explosive peaks. They're really Trey-led. They're incredible, like that Ghost from last night. My God, like that peak is just unbelievable. But because they're not following through on the other side of that or not deciding to stay in that kind of yards after catch situation, I think we're not getting a lot of that ambient space. And maybe that is the space when they tend to find the new sounds or the weirdness. And so I think maybe that is why they're bringing in some new songs to kind of push them. I think The Thread, like you said, is a great example because it's a song they rarely play. It's only been played 8 times. And that led to like the most interesting jamming last night, I thought, even though I thought the Tweezer and the Ghost were my favorite parts, but that jam was one of the best jams we've heard on the tour. It was just really interesting and diverse, like right away in a short amount of time. So, yeah, maybe because they're not sitting in that space after the peak, there's less, and I think when Trey's playing so lyrically and so his phrasing has just been so incredible that he's just riding these peaks and they're kind of finishing after them because they're so high. I don't know. It's interesting.
Well, maybe okay, how about this theory? Maybe it's that at least on the bust outs, like Columbus was a great example of like the life-saving gun jam had these really cool moments, as I mentioned. The Wave of Hope has this like 5 minutes that's like so emotional and powerful, and like the
Yes.
swirling guitar from Trey. But then they played like, Strawberry Letter, Petrichor, Waiting All Night. None of those songs were like anyone really knew what was going on. So it's sort of like it was almost like 2004 or something, Like they get into
Mhm.
these jam spaces, but then the songs are kind of like, wow, like I was thinking like who suggested to play these songs, because it's like,
Trey.
yeah, but it's like clearly they didn't like run through them all together. So I don't know
Petrichor
if
is
that,
is a choice at a rock
yeah,
concert.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's just like, I don't know. I said that in the jam bass thing, but like, is it like now we're back to it's all about the energy and we're not really worried about, these, I don't know. I'm curious about why all these songs that, are not super well practiced, and then like does that allow for them to just do like the things that they do in these jams that are pretty awesome.
I think there's also something about the choice of the bust outs that they're playing because a lot of these songs are being played, and I think a lot of people are, at least like in my texting circles of Fish fans, are like, "Oh my god, this song hasn't been played in 150 shows?" Like Devotion to a Dream, someone made a comment about that. Like, I completely forgot that that's like, I remembered that song. I had no idea that song had not been played since 2016. That was
That's
like
crazy, yeah.
that was like a capstone song coming out of Wingsuit. I know that it's got a lot of like angry, like it made a lot of Fish fans angry, that song. I personally have kind of a soft spot for it. I'm like, dude, you guys just celebrated your 30th year and are like, there's no realistic pathway for us to have gone to a college that no longer exists and be multi-millionaires who just literally live out our dream. Like, fucking write a song about it. It's okay, you know? Like, if people are gonna, like, be standing Joy, I can stand Devotion to a Dream, you know what I'm saying? Um, but, like, I think because the last period that we had a ton of big bust outs was fall 2021. And fall 2021 made
Hmm.
our top 25 tours list, a list that RJ is wearing on his bod
Damn, that
right
looks
now.
good. That looks
Doesn't that
so
look great?
good.
Look at that. Look at
Yeah,
those
look at the
tour
colors.
dates. Oh
God,
my
it's such a
God,
soft
moving
t-shirt
around.
too. Such a soft tee.
So soft. So
Mhm.
soft.
But that tour included a lot of bust outs of Fish mythology. You know, songs like "And So to
Mm,
Bed," the what was it, like, the squirrel joke that they kept making, the "Hi, how are you?" "Good," you know, that whole thing.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um, There was a Harpua on that tour. Like there were a lot of moments where like a song was busted out and it felt like something people had been chasing for a while. And I think a lot of these bust outs, if you will, Petrichor, Waiting All Night, for example, from Columbus, both are pushing 120 plus shows. Both have not been played in multiple years. It kind of hits like it blows you away that like Alpine 2022 was 120 shows ago. Like, what the hell? Like, that feels like it was just yesterday to some of
Yeah.
us. Or we're just like
Never forget.
endlessly never forget.
You mean the best? You mean the best David Bowie since 2013 or whatever?
But so like, I think to your point, RJ, they're reaching back in the catalog, and I think Meg, you're saying this as well, perhaps for inspiration, but also in a way that is not like summer 2012 had a ton of crazy bust outs. There was a Shaggy Dog for the first time since 1995 on that tour. Those were bust outs that when they happened, the entire fan base collectively kind of lost their mind.
Yeah.
And there are those bust outs still out there, but what's also happened is over the last 15 years, Phish has written 100 plus songs, and a lot of those songs have fallen by the wayside. So I think something you said earlier, Meg, summer 2024, one of its strengths was this wild and unpredictable and like, oh my God, they're still pushing at the edges type of jamming that we all heard show after show after show. Even in that run that you referenced, Bethel has an amazing night one, an incredible Kill Devil Falls in night two, an amazing AC/DC bag. You saw Mondegreen night one. We will not hear.
Killer.
You saw the secret set from Mondegreen as well. We will not hear that Mondegreen
night
was
3, also great too.
Also great. Okay, one day set with a black T-shirt on, sweating in the sun, does not make it a festival. But like
true.
what we're trading that for this year is a more wide open catalog, but also a more wide open catalog that contains songs, I guess for a lack of a better way of saying it, I don't think anyone's really asking for. But the band is clearly like looking for that inspiration. And one of the things I keep thinking is like, has there been a new jam vehicle that has emerged since What's Going Through Your Mind last summer?
No.
I don't think so.
No.
Like, it's kind of like A Wave of Hope, Set Yourself Free, Tweezer, Disease. Like Life Saving Good is starting to emerge. I thought the Columbus version was the strongest version, but that also gets back to kind of this jamming style I keep thinking about, which was let's all get into a very solid groove and then we will play over that groove. It's very 99 and 2000 in that sort of standpoint.
Yeah, I think the diversity of jamming is very different from last. I think that stood out from last summer, definitely.
Yeah. Where did you guys hear like the most interesting things? I've mentioned a couple that I heard over the past 4 shows.
I mean, I think the most interesting, strongest jam of the summer thus far is still the Austin Golden Age from night one, which did a lot of what we were talking about from a awesome standpoint from last year. And then in the middle part of that jam, it like breaks apart and is really weird and skronky and industrial. And then it builds to the kind of peak Megan was talking about, that like Trey can play these peaks that are so heartfelt, so like his riffing is so strong, and he just like pulls the band up with him. And that kind of has everything that I'm looking for in a lot of cases in the jamming right now. That was my most interesting stuff. That was obviously the 40-minute What's Going Through Your Mind had some really interesting stuff in it. But those are kind of where I heard it. What about you guys?
I mean, I think the Tweezer Ghost from last night is definitely not super diverse, but if you're going to have a jam that has a really strong narrative arc to a triumphant peak, it's a perfect example of how they're doing it well right now. Just transitions are really effortless. I think they're using a lot of their tricks. Like they're using effects really strongly in that jam, and that Mike and Trey are using it to kind of, they're really good at standing out from the jam, kind of evolving out of the sound and having that center stage moment with their effect, but then pulling back and kind of talking to each other while they're doing that, which I think is really a 4.0 trick in a way that's beautifully done in this jam. And there's just a part of that jam that's so beautiful. It's like about in the middle of it, and it's just absolutely stunning. You know, Paige has that like soundscape and then Trey is soloing over it in this really lyrical way that is just shows how incredible his phrasing is right now. And then I think the fact that they transition into the Ghost with the jam underneath it, and then the Ghost just leads to this absolutely massive peak. And I love when, to me, those two jams sound really connected. And I think that's like the best, is when you can kind of keep the intentionality, I guess, of a jam through the next song and build on that in a way that's really interesting. I also loved, like you said, RJ, the Wave of Hope from Columbus. I think that was just an incredible jam. I also think there's two rarities that were played this week that were really strong, and they're both Paige songs, Jesus Just Left Chicago and Walk Away. Paige's vocals are just so on point right now, at a time definitely when I think, especially the beginning of this tour, Trey had some vocal issues. He sounds a lot better now, but Paige sounds better than ever, and he delivers incredible performances in both of those songs. And I think Walk Away too, also from last night, just so powerful and played so well, and really just a celebratory triumphant peak at the end of that. And I think it's cool when they can play songs they don't play a lot and play them really, really well. And I think those are two examples of that.
I just have one. I want to comment on this thing that Jordan Worthmeyer asked, because I had never thought about this, and this is actually really fascinating. He said, "I believe that what's going through your mind was their last debut, Grand Rapids 24." I think you guys were there. I think there's a bluegrass artist there as well.
I saw a little bit of that guy that week, but
twice,
just a little bit of him,
a couple times.
He didn't invade the show in any sort of way. He just
both nights he came out. Both nights.
And then he asked, has there ever been a year that they have not debuted a song? And I just double checked. He's absolutely right. The last debut that has or original debut is What's Going Through Your Mind, August 7th, 2024, last year. And I just looked back to the start of the summer 2023 tour. These are the songs that have debuted and have over, let's call it, 8 versions played. Okay, it's not that long. Oblivion with 20 versions played, Ether Edge with 10, The Well with 9, Pillow Jets with 13, Monsters with 10, Life Saving Gun with 13, and What's Going Through Your Mind with 10. Those are kind of the last like new batch of songs that have come about since the start of the summer 2023 tour, which I don't have it exactly in front of me because I just thought about this, but you'd have to go back to like 2010, 2011, 2012 era of Phish for this few amount of new songs to emerge and immediately take hold. Like all of those songs we kind of expect to hear now on a various run or over a course of like 4 or 5 shows. What's Going Through Your Mind is going to hold down a set 2 jam at some point if you see Phish 5 times. Life Saving Gun is going to be there. Monsters is going to like root its way into the middle of the second set and just like firmly plant itself there and have like 10 people being like, David Gilmour, like it's going to happen. But we haven't heard anything since then, any new songs that have emerged. And I've got to imagine they're still writing. I've got to imagine we're going to hear these new songs, but maybe to RJ's question originally, part of the reason that we're digging up these old songs is like they worked for 10 shows and then fell out of the rotation or didn't work, but like they were there. Is there something that we can resurrect here and kind of inject some new blood at this point in time?
Well, I think also one thing we learned from Top Tours, and also looking back at my notes from the last 2 summer tours, is that new songs are definitely fuel this band in terms of jamming. And so it is interesting. Evdude has like a comment on here that they have too many songs, which sometimes I agree with. And maybe they need to pump the brakes on new tunes. But I don't know if I think that that's the right thing because of the type of jamming that we want. I just think that when they write new songs, they tend to be super inspired by them and it takes them new places as a band. So I don't know. It's interesting to think about, but I'm so glad Jordan brought that up because I didn't realize that. And that's really interesting because I think the last 2 summers, thinking about how many were debuted summer 23 and what a huge impact that had on the band, it's interesting to think that if they are not writing right now or if they're not bringing them out. It's fascinating. They do have a lot of songs, but I think they need new ones.
A lot.
Yeah.
There's some they can get rid of. I have a list if they want them.
Well, definitely don't say it, because if you say the list, then they'll just
I
those
know.
will become heavy rotation. Okay, so
heavy
one thing
rotation was never in the list.
There's a lot of comments in the chat about the jam bass pieces that Megan and I wrote, which is, thank you for your compliments.
Thank you so much.
Also, someone earlier, Greg, said that he's coming to Philly tomorrow from San Diego and definitely going to hit up our event on Wednesday.
Yes. Say hi, Greg. That's awesome.
Thank you, Greg. We will be in the lot on Wednesday afternoon. Right now, it's like half likely that it's going to rain. And so, we'll see. I think there are tents. I know that Dean, who puts this on, it's very professional. It's going to be great. There are tents. You might get wet. If you get wet, then you dry off later. It's just how it goes. But we're looking, it's going to be, could potentially be stormy that day, which then we would have to obviously move through stormy weather in order for love to see us through.
You know what happens when there's bad weather is Fish plays great shows. So
true.
I think that's true. But I think Glenn's point here is hilarious about how they're giving us long jams and bust outs and we're complaining about it. It's classic Fish fan behavior. But I agree. I have a list of songs they could bust out, like Ain't Love Funny or Melt the Guns or other songs. Like they could play me an Iculus. I've never heard one, or a Catapult, but I bet I don't even want to say what I think I'm going to get at the man because I don't want to curse myself. But it has been mentioned in the chat already, and I just know I'm going to get it.
Well, we need our friend Matt is coming to his first show in a while tomorrow, and he was texting me earlier about if I had any predictions, and I said I didn't have any predictions right now because I haven't talked about the last 4 shows, but we should do a prediction corner for Matt at the end of the episode.
I'd love that.
Okay, so they're playing at the Man next 2 nights. We'll be there. Okay, what else? I mean, what else you guys got on the past 4 nights?
Well, I have 2 things, and one just emerged in the chat, so I do actually want to bring it up because it is an interesting question, and it's interesting. I can't speak now. It's an interesting thought. Michael Myers, unsure if this is the undead version or just the actor. Just a guy with the name. The vacuum needs to come back in the rotation. Then we are all set. A laughing emoji. But it is an interesting point. This is something that our good friend Jonathan Hart once discussed. I remember this at the end of the summer or the spring 23 tour, which we are now officially calling a tour because it's on the Top Tour t-shirt. Some of us were gushing over the run. Some of us were excited about it. Some of us thought it was a good run. One of Jonathan's points was that it did not have as much humor in it as what we tend to get with like peak Fish runs. And it is something I have noticed the last couple of years is this band is less funny in concert than they used to be. Which I don't necessarily like. I'm not complaining here. I'm just pointing it out. Like they are not doing like weird catapults in the middle of weird jams. They're playing a lot of weird music that in the past would like go into a catapult. They're not doing HYHU. Hey, let's take the piss out of Fishman for 15 minutes. The last Harpua, I believe, was the Animal Show. If it has happened since then, someone tell me because my brain is broken. But
wow, that was a long time ago. I don't think I realized that. That's crazy.
I want to double check it while I'm speaking, and RJ can. No, sorry, it was 12/31/23. My God, it was what led us into Gamehenge. But like, my point is like we're just not seeing as much of that Fish goofiness that throughout their history, even a show like 12/30/97, which I consider the best Fish show that has ever happened. That show, midway through, amidst deep jamming, amidst crazy bust outs, amidst wild hijinks, has like at its heart one of the funniest and most heartwarming moments in all Fish history. When Tom comes out, they sing 500 Miles, and then they start realizing that they can sing Hannibal Lecter over the beat. And like there's that like just in the moment, these are the funniest dudes in the room. They've got the mic, and you are just like laughing your ass off at them. Like I remember my brother-in-law went to Hartford 2009. And of course, I mean, talk about a show that's fun to read on paper. My God.
It was
Talk about a
awesome.
show that like blew the internet up when it
was awesome.
happened in August 2009. Were you at that show?
Yeah. Yeah, it was
My
amazing.
God. Jesus Christ.
Wow.
So great.
And I remember texting with him after. I was like, what was it like in the room? And his response was like, it was one of those just classic old school Fish shows where the band is just like basically hosting a stand-up comedy event in the middle of a rock concert and everyone is laughing and screaming and having the best time. And that's definitely something that's missing right now. And who knows why? I'm not, someone out there can be like, this guy is just bitching about Fish. No, I'm just like, I'm pointing out the obvious. This is just happening right now. And like, what do you guys think about that? Do you think that that is something that needs to come back at this point during the tour? Do you think that it's okay that they're taking a little bit more of like a self-serious approach to their concerts right now than in the past?
I tend to think that maybe they're in that super deep jam headspace is not really a place to like pause everything and have Fishman come out and, sing an Aerosmith song. Like, I don't know. Or I just think maybe like it's not where they are as much anymore. I think they do take their music so seriously now, and they always have, but I think that their music is so kind of, I don't know, I guess it's always been that way. I was gonna say like rich and sophisticated and layered, and to me, I think whenever I see them like searching for these big jams, I said this earlier, but I do think they're looking for transcendence, and I don't know how much that aligns with humor, and maybe it does when you're young because you can just do so much when you're young effortlessly. But I don't know. It's an interesting thing. I think that the inclusion of a lot of Trey's newer songs, and I'm talking about the last like 10 years, they are more serious and they are more heartfelt and they are
Totally.
more genuine. And I think sometimes, I was in the car today and my daughter, who's going to her first show on Wednesday, we were running a bunch of errands and I was playing Fish and she was actually listening and that was exciting. And she didn't have a lot to say, but she was laughing with me because I was singing like Soul Planet with her. And I was like, yeah, this is like my favorite band's lyrics, and it's just kind of funny because they're very, it's love and light. It's just a different vibe. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I think like typically like I'm not like a huge Fish humor person. Like I've been at a lot of these shows where like funny stuff is happening. And I think it's like fun, but I don't like necessarily think it's funny, but I do think it typically indicates like relaxation or comfort, right?
That's yeah.
That's right. That's like the idea. So if that's, I don't think that's missing. So it feels like maybe they're just not feeling the need for it for whatever reason, because I do think some of those tours where they didn't do it much, like felt like more tense, like I don't feel any
the older ones, or
there were like a couple at the beginning of 3.0 where they didn't do a lot of banter stuff. And it kind of felt like, it just felt too like tight.
Buttoned up.
Yeah.
Totally. This doesn't feel like that to me.
No, I don't think they need it anymore. Like, to me, it served a big purpose when they were younger, and now it's just nostalgic, I think.
Well, I think it'll be bad. I think one of these shows, like in the next 6 shows or however many are left in tour, one of them will happen. Like it'll just be like
a vacuum. SPAC, probably.
I think it'll just be like goofy, like you'll get ass handed and then like Trey will start making fun of Fishman and then it'll go throughout the show and like something will happen. Like I would be surprised if the entire tour went by where that wasn't like a feature of at least one show.
Especially with how the tour is finishing. Like the
home.
They've only played the United Center once, but like they do like Chicago, they do like the Midwest. That will be a pretty big weekend run. But then like Forest Hills, new venue, but still New York City in the summertime. Very different breed of NIMBYs, but some NIMBYs hanging out there who are probably going to impact the curfew.
10 o'clock curfew. That's fucking awesome. God,
yeah, I mean,
I know.
Don't
for
get me
old
wrong.
people, like I'm pumped, man. This show's
don't get me wrong. I was like, why are we doing 8 o'clock start time still? Like, what the fuck is going on? I got home. I was in bed after each Boulder show at like 11:45 at night. It was glorious.
That's crazy.
Unbelievable. But Yeah, I mean, because to your point, RJ, there were definitely some early 3.0 tours where it kind of felt like something was potentially wrong with the band because and like 2.0 was very much like this. Like Trey was just not talking to the audience, and that conversational breaking the fourth wall type of stuff has always been a part of the band's history.
Yeah.
But then there was also like summer 2012 is very fondly remembered, not so much for the jamming until later, but for like the tucking jokes that like hung around throughout the entirety of June. That was also a tour that had a ton of bust outs. I think that
Hmm.
they went into that tour planning to break the annual song total mark that they had set a couple years earlier. So there was just rarities, random stuff, but that kind of came at the expense of the type of stuff that we heard last night, which was a 76-minute long segment of music, not fully connected, but like Set Your Soul Free, Tweezer, Ghost, Golden Age. Like that is a complete set of music right there. That was not happening in 2012. So there is maybe a bit of a trade-off. Maybe it's age, maybe it is. I don't know. It was an interesting observation. I do really want to just shout out Alex here in the chat who is referencing the New Year's Eve, what's going through your mind as a humorous moment. I think that's what you're doing here when you added that. I appreciate it. If that's not what you were intending, sorry for misinterpreting the comment, but I appreciate that. The EDM, what's going through your mind as an
Uh,
example of this
I
humor.
love that shit. I don't
I
care.
thought it
I
was
actually
good.
really liked
It
it.
was
I thought it
super
was really, really
fun.
cool that the
Come
band
on.
was like, "This is a modern type of festival music that we are just going to attempt." And I thought they did a pretty good job on it.
Yeah.
Um,
Alex is confirming that it was a joke.
well done. Well done,
That's
sir.
really funny.
I hope that makes up for my British accent last week.
Oh man.
One other point that I have is about Saturday Night Show.
Okay.
I found it really interesting. Okay. Do you want to know why? Of course you
Hmm.
want to know why. Everybody
That's
Yeah.
wants
night
to know
2,
why.
right? Right,
It
Brian?
was
Night
night
2?
2 of Charleston.
Yeah. Okay.
This show reminds me so much of a like summer or fall 2013, summer 2014, summer 2015 show. And I feel like if you had taken this show back in time, people would lose their minds over it.
Incredible
It's
flow.
it's great flow. It's a really good set list. The playing is awesome. Like the first set of this
Mhm.
show in MoMA, Destiny, and Plasma and Bathtub Gin are just like some locked in. I'm gonna throw this idea out, and then Paige brings something back, and then Mike has an idea, and like they are jamming within these songs without extending them.
Yeah.
The second set, near 20-minute Mercury, huge 13-minute Soul Planet, really, really well played Harry Hood, but none of it goes like super deep. It's like the band is, and you hear this a lot when you go back and listen to fall 2013 especially. The band is playing without relying on their effects. They're just playing the songs and they're extending the songs, but they're just like kind of playing them. It's just like four guys in a room without all the effects boards in front of them. And of course, there are weird sounds, there's stuff going on, but like this show to me exemplifies where we're at in this tour. That this band, in my interpretation, is trying to just get back to the root of what it means to be a quartet again, which is I think is will long term be a really cool thing and will lead to new ideas. But I've been thinking about that a lot since the show happened because while I like this show a lot, I thought it flowed really well. I thought it was a rockin' show. It would have been awesome to be there. It doesn't necessarily have the like deep atmospheric weird playing that I tend to move towards that like made
Yeah.
me just fall so hard for all of 2024 Fish.
Yeah, I mean, I really liked the second set of that show only because none of it was deep, but like, Mike's like kind of classic Mike's groove to the Mike's was a little bit stretched out, the Mercury was,
Yes.
but it was just, they were all just kind of like grooves that they got into, but it flowed well, I thought. Um, the Soul Planet like got weird right away, which is cool. Like I thought there was some interesting flow to that show. But I agree with what you're saying. Um,
There definitely was. And I think even like things like the Mike's groove to me, like that Weekapog has like they kind of modernized the Weekapaug Peak. It has like a synth filter from Trey, and it just sounds really cool. And it's like just the usual Weekapaug peak, but it sounds like really modern in a way, which I think is awesome. But then there's no kind of jam that you in that show. I was going back through this week listening to like my favorite jams, and there wasn't really one that stood out from that show, even though I agree. I think the show is awesome. It has like such great flow. But I think there's of a lot of jams on this tour that are like 12 to 18 minutes that aren't necessarily don't stand out particularly, which is interesting because they're playing a lot of them. And I don't know if it's because they're searching, but I would say there's more. I mean, there's going to be a lot of jam charted songs from this tour that aren't 20 minutes, but also like are a little bit, yeah, they're just almost like you were saying, Brian, they're more like type 1, type 1.5 jams. There's a lot of those.
Yeah. Yeah. I I think, Brian, we're getting back to, maybe I thought that I wasn't hearing as much new stuff. Now that we're like talking through it, and I was listening to some stuff this afternoon again, I think maybe I'm hearing like slightly more new stuff than I did like earlier this year, but I feel like it's much shorter and in smaller doses.
The newest style and sounds I feel like I've heard this year, and I'd be curious if you agree with this. I still think the most like groundbreaking jam of the summer tour thus far was the Twist from Manchester.
Yeah.
Like that gets out there. The way that Kuroda uses the lights during that is a very, very new technique that like kind of like flowy, like it looks like wings. He did it during the Everything's Right in Boulder as well. The most out there jam of those 3 nights. Do you agree with that, or is there someplace else that you're hearing this?
Yeah, I think I agree with that about the jam. I think that like those couple pieces that I mentioned earlier, like the light saving gun from Columbus, there's just like a really interesting 2 or 3 minute thing where it's almost like what Megan, I think you were saying earlier, which is that like I've heard like Trey and Mike kind of like getting in this like kind of dueling kind of thing, but not in
Yeah.
a way that's like Son of a Mule, but like more like
Thank God.
they're just they're just going back and forth in a way that is really like kind of interesting and sounds cool. So, but those are in like smaller chunks. I don't know. I have to go back to that Manchester run because there's like that's where the what's going through your mind was 45 minutes or something, right?
No, that's Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh right after
Oh,
that.
that was
But yeah,
Pittsburgh.
and that's also one that's got a couple minutes in there.
I
Alex
think
just mentioned that in
yeah.
the chat, like especially like around like I don't know 23 to 28 minutes, where it's just like very strange, and it definitely sounds like this is a jam, kind of in line with what RJ was mentioning, that it's kind of winding down and going to fade into something, but they're just like trying to just play it out, and then it has another 15 minutes on the back end of it. So like I've definitely heard it. I do also think um this tour, I don't want to harp on this, but like I feel like I'm just calling balls and strikes here. This tour feels like pre-Boulder and post-Boulder in some ways, whereas like Boulder was its own thing. It was like this mini like gathering in like a gigantic stadium that had um some impact, let's just say, on the bands playing, and the jamming was much tighter and much more focused around like rock peaks. Whereas outside of that, there has been more experimentation. But even since then, what really shocked me about this last week was like the Wave of Hope, the Piper, the Disease, the parts of the Life Saving Gun, the Mercury for sure, and then parts of the Tweezer last night are, to me, they feel more like exercises in how do we just connect as a band rather than incorporating all these effects. And one thing I should have said this at the top. We texted a bit about this, but this is something that really stuck out to me last night. If you watch the webcast in the Wolfman's Brother, there's like something that happens in there that I don't feel like I've ever seen before. At least I've webcast a lot of shows. As RJ knows, I love to webcast. It's
Hey,
like
I
my
know that
favorite thing
too.
in the world. You know that too. But RJ doesn't like to webcast. Like I get to like,
Yeah, true.
it's our one point of division here. During the Wolfman's, Trey like stops and looks at Mike and Fish and like waits for them to get in the pocket. And it's like he's almost like not conducting the way he does in Tab, but he's like, I want to build this slowly. The two of you need to get on the exact same page together, and then we will get into it. And there's like a 20-second moment where he's just like looking right at them and waiting for them to be right there in the pocket. And then once he feels confident that they're good, he starts riffing and they slowly build this jam back up again. It felt like this almost like band practice, almost like in the moment. Let's make sure that we are on the same page because we can go out and we can play a 45-minute jam in our sleep and we can just like new idea, boom, pull that in. All right, what can we do to that? Let's go, let's do this. All right, let's peak this. Let's see what's out on the backside. Like, how do we just play music as a foursome and see what happens in the simplest possible connection? You saw it, a song later in the thread. He was looking right at Paige throughout that entire jam and then looking back at Fishman to make sure like we're all on the same page here because we want to play this one singular groove and make this one singular groove work. It's all over that life-saving gun. That life-saving gun finds a groove and does nothing else for like 6 minutes. And I love it. I don't want them to like, I want that to like continue. I love that. But it's a very different approach to jamming than we've heard over the last couple of years. And it just strikes me that something is afoot within, the band. They're always creative. They're always thinking, they're always trying to break things down. And so like, what is happening right now?
I think that I think it's the twist from New Hampshire. There's a lot of these jams that I think like become much more open and unique sound wise when Trey has like a kind of responsible but expansive use of his effects, where he's just like he introduced, because Mike and Paige will get on that like if Trey starts, and then it turns into this like swirling kind of like cool soundscape. But if Trey kind of keeps it more straightforward or just keeps like kind of chord vamping like he's been doing a lot in these jams, I think that kind of like keeps everyone slightly more like in the 1.5 direction.
Totally.
And when Trey like kind of unlocks it, then it like they just get out there. So I feel like he's kind of like maybe even more the key to that kind of sound that you're describing happening. But
Definitely.
maybe he always is.
It seems to me he's been really in the driver's seat though on this tour, as far as like leading the jams.
Yeah. I mean, he is playing incredibly well right now.
I mean, he sounds like unbelievable. His tone and phrasing, it's insane. I mean, you almost start to take it for granted. It's so good.
And it's very, I mean, go back, listen to even some of the Baker's Dozen stuff that we all rightly praised when it happened. There is a much more timid approach to soloing from Trey in those jams than right now. And he is able to string together ideas for as much as I would have loved some of these like big blowout jams in Boulder, like the thing that made those shows, continue to like, be really compelling in the moment was, and like 7/4 set 2 is a perfect example of this. Trey is just running the show there, and he is just playing in a manner that evokes confidence and an ability and like clear practice over the years that has built up to make him a better guitarist than he was 10 years ago. It's wild. It's absolutely insane that we're at this point.
Yeah. As I told you guys earlier, I texted you that I'm seeing Fish tomorrow for the first time in like 8 months, and I'm excited to be reminded that like no matter what happens, it's still the best fucking time.
Yes.
Ever. What do you guys think is going to happen at the Man? Do you have any predictions? Hopes, fears, predictions. Let's go with that.
I think we're going to get a set long mule duel. We're going to open with Son of a Mule, go into the duel, spread it out. Everything is going to be in amidst the mule duel. And then at the end of it, they're going to close it out.
The mule duel.
Please, God.
Nightmare scenario. I mean, I've been a little concerned. No. that we're gonna get a Time Turns Elastic dropped into like a
Concerned.
third quarter at the Man. You know, it's like this beautiful venue that was
I don't
built.
think they're
Was
ever
it built
playing
for
that
like
in front of a
this
audience
the
again.
symphony? You don't think so? Because I've seen Fish
No.
play it live, and it was intense.
Yeah, it's
but
hard. It's hard.
yeah. So hopefully that won't
I've seen
happen.
it a
But it
couple
just
times
feels.
too.
I
Saw
didn't
Fish
think.
too.
Yeah, you have? Oh wow.
We thought you just
Not-
webcasted.
Not just
Yeah,
webcast.
exactly. You've seen more Fish than I have recently. I won't. But I will see 5 of the next 7 shows. So I'm down to hear something amazing. But just like
Crazy.
RJ said, whatever happens, I'm gonna love it in the moment and talk shit about it on the pod. So can't wait.
Well, yeah, my soul is up. If they play more, you guys know. God, I can't wait.
Big Ball Jam
in the
during
middle
more.
of more, like Trey's solo, he just sees a couple balls flying around the crowd, and he just like, you guys want to do it again? And like they bust it out, and you guys are like, fuck, we were there for the Big Ball Jam.
No,
stuff.
we're not going to do it. It's not going to happen. But what else is in? I guess what's going through your mind is probably due, right? It's been like 5 shows.
Yeah, the last one was Boulder Night 2. So yeah, I think I think you're definitely going to get that. I mean,
no Tweezer, obviously.
No Tweezer. The Man.
What else is going to happen jam wise?
2 times they played the Man, 2022 and 2023. They did not play there in 2024. They let Goose take the reins that weekend.
Me, my wife is still so annoyed by that.
2022, we had a really cool Tweezer Fest one night. 2023, we had an awesome Carini one night.
That was so good.
Yep.
I was there. Mm-hmm.
What else do we have? We had another big jam.
We had a
well jam.
Yeah, the well. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was the night before.
That was the night where
we could do that again.
We could do that again. Can I just tell you guys really quickly, because I haven't told this story in 2 years, that we were standing in the row behind the boxes at the Man, and I know a lot of people who work there, and it's funny because if the boxes aren't full, then people just think that it's like an open place to dance. And during that well jam, no fewer than 30 people came in, jumped in the box, started like looking. You saw it happening. Someone would come up, jump in the box, look around. They're like, I'm in the box. And then security comes and gets them. 2 minutes later, the next person does it. Same exact thing. You're like looking around like, hell yeah, I'm in a box. This is awesome. And the security comes again. Happened during that well jam like 20 times until eventually a security guy just like stood in the box so that people wouldn't come in. But so that really distracted my well viewing. Okay, well,
I have another prediction too.
Okay.
Maybe we're gonna get a Guitar Gently Weeps because we've been getting all these Beatles, and that'd be fun.
That'd be good.
That would be great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's been a little bit.
They played Dear Prudence the only time I've been to the Man, which
oh my god, that would be amazing.
Stat get for me. I mean, I think Philadelphia Fish, they love it. Like this is the site of the 2 shows in Summer 95 are awesome. The Harry Hood from Summer 94 is awesome. They just released a box set of 2 excellent Philadelphia arena shows from 1997, if you didn't notice. Yep, awesome. 8/12 2015. One of us picked it in the draft and didn't win. Still an awesome, awesome show, regardless what the haters out there say. I think that you can anticipate one of these shows. Well, okay. Because here's where we're at. Like, I don't think they played a bad show in Charleston.
Yeah.
I also think that they spread the goods across 3 shows. Like we used to expect if you go to a 3-night run, one show will probably be really good, one show will be so-so, and one show will be totally forgettable. Like that was kind of how 3.0 Fish seemed to work. If you went to a 2 or 3-night run, you'd see something really great, but you'd also see a show that you're like, I'm not going to listen to that anymore. That doesn't really feel like the case anymore. Like and I wonder if that has something to do with, I wonder where the humor fits in, like the lack of humor fits into all this, the big jams, the jams all sound like everything we've been talking about. There's just like a consistency to this that maybe, forgive me out there for all my non-mentions that are going to happen here, but like maybe that's kind of boring. Like just like really good Fish, like really solid Fish all the time. Like those highs and lows are slightly missing. And I don't really want to return to an era where there are those lows. Like,
no.
You know, I saw a bunch of shows in summer 2014. I don't really want those kind of shows to come back, but I also like it is an interesting place to be in where like if you saw those 3 shows in Charleston, those are 3 very solid shows to see.
Yeah, like different
I
from 2019 Charleston.
very different. Where you
Yeah,
had like
yeah.
a really, pretty good show, pretty solid show, and then like, whoa, what the hell?
Yeah.
The just the in terms of the yeah, exactly.
You could take away. You could do some clips from this episode that would really like confuse, like really make us look bad out of context. It's so good.
Okay, we got from our friend Zizix from his site. The most common songs not played so far on this tour are Cavern, Sparkle, Hold Your Head Up, Poor Heart, Fee, I Didn't Know, My Sweet One, It's Ice, Funky Bitch, Good Times, Bad Times. That's the top.
I could see. I like Good Times, Bad Times. Yeah, I think they're. I
Funky Bitch is coming for sure.
It's for sure.
Right?
That's definitely coming. Yeah.
I'm definitely taking a bathroom break.
This is definitely a tour that you want to like check your like most commonly played least seen, because you could probably get one, which is kind of fun, and it's nice to know that going in. My daughter has 3 songs that she really knows, and they're Simple, Blaze On, and Reba. And I think what if we got a really big Simple? That'd be cool.
Yeah,
she could get one of those.
I think Simple and Blaze On are definitely coming.
Yeah, same.
A huge Simple would be great. Let's just do it. Let's do that. Just do the whole thing.
Man Night 2, huge Simple. Open up set 2, just a monster. Like make it my longest jam ever, like 43 minutes.
Okay, well, we can do that. Unfortunately, our friend Matt, who I mentioned, is only coming to Tuesday, so he's going to miss the huge Simple. But he'll see something else.
Yeah, he's seen a lot though. This is Gemma's first show, and her first Goose show. She saw they opened up with like a 30-something minute Echo of a Rose set too, so she's ready for big jams. She's ready.
Awesome. That's awesome. It's going to be fun. We will see you guys in the lot on Wednesday afternoon at some point around 3:00, I think. So it's going to be great. That's where we're going to be. And we'll be back. We are going to do our special mailbag episode on Friday. There's no getting out of it for any of us. There's no excuses. if one of us has to do it by ourselves from a closet, we will do it because we are devoted to you. So keep sending us voicemails. And in case you don't know, you can send us a voicemail by calling 484-416-0488 and leave us reviews on Apple and help people find the pod. All right, Megan, Brian, anything else?
Devotion to the pod.
Devotion to the pod. All right, see you guys out there. Enjoy your fish.
Bye, everyone.
See you guys.